Welcome to the Brawling Brute, I guess. This is where I'm going to play some Brawl instead of Commander, because I'm having a heck of a time getting some Commander content recorded on MTGO. For reasons I'll go into in a ranked rambling someday. So, this is my main Niv Brawl deck. This is not the optimal Niv-Mizzet Brawl deck, this is just my personal favourite because I love companions. So I'm playing in my Niv deck Jegantha. So I'm limiting myself to only one of each mana symbol. As you can see, I've built this deck with an insanely low curve. Literally there is nothing more than, well, technically with Flourish there's a 6-drop. But Niv is literally the only 5-drop we get to. If we get up to 5, we want to be casting Niv-Mizzet. So, if we look at the breakdown of the deck, we run a lot of low-level ramp, in the sense of not ramp so much as fixing. This deck is built very heavily like the optimized Niv Commander decks, where we want to 1-for-1 with an opponent, kill the thing, answer this, counter that. Then when we're top decking, we can pull out of our Brawl zone and play a Niv-Mizzet to gain card advantage. So, this deck has not been updated with anything from Wilds of Eldraine. I need to go through it. Also, after discovering the joys of some of the Baldur's Gate cards, I've got to go and look at them again. But yes, so this deck is highly interactive, basically kind of like a Junt control deck. It's basically, I'll answer this, I'll have a good threat now, and you've got to answer it. But then we have a reload button. So, deck list will be below. The most prominent things we've added here is we have the ring mechanic with Smeagol and, where is she, Gladriel. So, great fixing and ways to steal opponents' lands. We're running Frodo to get some synergies off that. And we have Bilbo to gain us some in and out. Aside from our obvious 1-mana fixing ramp we have here, just to get basic land types so we can cover our colours. We're running our Shadowheart and our Arcane Signet. We're also running a Navigation Orb. Now, the reason we're running mostly colourless is if we don't have green in our opening, it's a bit awkward if we can't cast like our Into the North and effects like that. Apart from that though, our big closers, we have Uro, we have Edgar, and King of the Oathbreakers is really hard to answer threats that just gain us value. We have Ringsight to tutor out any answer we need late or early. Aside from that, our big finisher is really just Niv, so we're looking to resolve Niv. We're also running Croxer. Chevelle's a fun answer. There's a lot of individually fun cards, but we'll talk about them as they come up. And as I say, the list is in the description below. I hope you enjoy these free Brawl matches. Alright, welcome to our first match here. We're against Koma, the Cosmos Serpent. Big Simic card that wants to do Simic things. The big strategy, I'll say, that when you fight a big mana commander like this is your opponent is going to want to go into massive ramp and then ultimately cast their commander with protection. Koma itself provides protection. If they can get it resolved, it will make itself indestructible, and currently we don't have a way to deal with that, unfortunately, in our hand. However, we can dig to it. Obviously, if we can solve Niv with a Soul Herder, this will be absolutely insane. Masterwood Nexus means that they could turn everything into a coil to sack it to Koma to keep Koma alive no matter what is on the field. There we see an example of their ramp. We're on 3 mana here. I'm going to get down Gladriel because she's pretty big free, but also if we can incidentally scry, we'll score some great value off her abilities. The big thing with these big mana commander / brawl creatures is that if you can just kill them once, usually the opponent is done because they don't have a way to come back from it. This is going to be a blowout here because now we can use Rip Apart to kill the Spiral Grove here. And then we can Decisive Denial secondary mode to have Gladriel fight the Mana Dork. Like I said, we've just got to keep it off. Sorry, we've got to keep our opponent off Koma for as long as possible. And anything we do that will force them to keep ramping and not keep mana up to counter our plays is way effective. Opponent's having a little consideration here. This was, I think, our longest match of the night. I'm playing these at regular speed here. Old Growth Drawl, I'm getting Pioneer and Explorer flashbacks of Terror. On here, I ultimately play the card tapped, and I'm going to play the Soul Herder here. Now, we'll take the hit here probably, but I want to save the Vanishing Verse for maybe something more impactful. We'll make Soul Herder bigger by flickering Gladriel, even though there's no trigger off it. Our opponent gets up to 6 mana here and plays a Luggage Familiar, which is going to give them the mana to cast their commander next turn. But we know now they have nothing else in hand, so they've got nothing to counter on Niv-Mizzet. So we get to resolve a Niv-Mizzet with a Soul Herder active on the field and no way for our opponent to stop it. So this is going to be good. Niv needs to hit us something to deal with. Edicts would be great, but the Koma making a coil every upkeep is going to make it hard to deal with, but we'll take that just in case. We'll hold back here, we want as many blockers as possible. And unfortunately we are going to have to blink again here. Ringside can find us what we need, so I'm actually not going to blink. Because I realise that what I can do is just use Ringside to find Anguished Unmaking or an effect like that to just exile the Koma once. Because they are effectively going to have to tap out here for Koma. Here comes the Koma, can't be countered. See, the Koma gets a big animation. Right. So, here's where we consider what to do. I need to get an additional black if I'm going to be able to get that down. So I'm going to attack with Niv here. None of these creatures have reach. What I was ultimately trying to do here is force them to activate the Koma by sacrificing the coil. Instead, the problem is we're choked on black mana, so we don't have a lot. What I'm going to do is, though, use Ringside here. We get to choose our Ring Bearer, we'll put it on Soul Herder. And we get to tutor a card out of our deck. Now, Allegiance to Ashes or Anguished Unmaking are our 2 answers for indestructible creatures, so I think we have to grab one of them primarily. But I'm just having a quick look, see if we have some mass exile spell. It's been a while since I touched this deck. Ultimately, though, we don't, so I decide that our best option here is probably the Legion to Ashes. Legion to Ashes is pretty good, actually, because I take Legion to Ashes because if we get another answer for Koma, what we can do is then eventually kill all the tokens at once. We find Anguished off the top here, which is insane as well. So we put our Signet to the bottom, use Gladriel, get that land onto the battlefield here. And we still have a land drop here. So we're going to use... I'm not going to use Broker's Hideout because I want that Anguished Unmaking off the top. So we'll put this into play tapped and pass the turn. We now get to blink, so we are going to blink Niv here. We're going to end up discarding a ton of cards here, but we're going to end up with multiple answers to Koma. And if we can find a counter spell to protect our Koma answers... Oh, and there's a veto, which makes it perfect. As I said, we can't stop the Koma being cast. So... Grimflayer is not going to be impactful on this board. Thought Erasure, they don't really have a hand. Although I am tempted to keep it maybe. I want Smeagol to steal lands off them for fun. We'll get rid of another land and we'll get rid of the Edict because we're going to be in a situation where Edicts are just not going to be that impactful here. Koma pumping out a coil every upkeep is literally just going to outpace us and we're going to have no way that an Edict is going to be impactful. It could be in combination with the Soul Blaze, but I'm thinking here to just answer the Koma and keep other things ready. They play a Glade Walker, which is a coil that can be sacked to Koma to protect it. They put a 1/1 counter on their Old Growth Troll. They're counting for something here. They play a Beanstalk Worm, so they now have a full board that has a huge amount of protection here. Alright, so what we can do here on our end step, we can use the Flame of Andor. We're just going to use 5 damage and kill one of the creatures, particularly the one that has reach, to stop Niv getting through. Our opponent is tapped out, so they don't really have anything here. We can then use Anguish Sunmaking on Koma, and we could then use Legion's Ashes to kill all of the coils at once. We'll just see what happens here. So we will exile their Koma. And they concede here because they don't have the mana to recast it and they don't have cards. That's usually how it goes with big mana creatures like that. If you can just answer their commander once, they'll just concede. And proof that we are in the Hell queue, here is Rusko the Clockmaker, which is one of the top tier decks in the format. It's basically blue black control that reloads itself after so many turns. So our main goal here will just be to kill Rusko and anything else they try to cast. We draw our ringside again, which is interesting. So let's try a Cold Steel Heart here. There was no pause there, so that means they clearly don't have a counter magic for 2. They could definitely have it for 3 or higher. Now we proof that Brawl is different here. They play the Midnight Clock. We might have to answer that just to keep them off mana here. They still don't have black, which is interesting. So I choose to play the Overgrown Farmland. I'm considering my options here. Anguish Sunmaking being a instant means that I'm very tempted to see if my opponent plays Rusko, then I can kill Rusko and try to put him to put a reaction out. They play Ominous Sea here and miss their land drop, so with that in mind, let's take out their land here. A Cardinal Sin in Commander, but this isn't Commander, this is Brawl, where we actually make optimal plays for the board state. Right, we have 5 mana here, they have 1 mana open, so let's get Niv-Mizzet resolved here. The odds are that they have a bounce or removal in hand, but let's just get something. Right, Veto, great answers. We have to discard 4 here. Solar Blaze, because they're not a huge creature deck. All this stuff is great. We'll keep the Carvu. Grim Flayer is a bit... I'm going to get rid of Ringside, which is a bit controversial here. But I've said before, Ringside only works if you have a legendary creature, and they're a control deck, so I want as much counters or slow down as I can get. Let's play the Cabaretti Courtyard. We might as well, or could we play a tap land? Yeah, let's put the tap land down. Now we can hold up vetoes, stack effects, and other things to do the damage. It appears our opponent kept a very greedy hand because they haven't put down any black mana yet. Let's see what they do here with their Carvu. Now they have mana on 3. This basically halves the clock. It will go down to like 2 turn lethal as opposed to 4 turn lethal. I'm considering countering this here. And I decided I will. I don't want them getting even a simple counter here, so I'll use Decisive Denial to counter it. Right now, if they resolve a Rusko and tap out, I'm totally fine with that because we can Deadly Brew and use some other effects to stop them here. Right, we have 10 damage on the board, so let's try and get this resolved. They have Removal Spell probably in hand, now they've got black mana. We'll use Carvu's attack trigger to discard the Cabaretti Courtyard. We find a Flower Flourish, which doesn't increase our clock unfortunately, but we'll take it from here. We have the mana here for Veto, so let's use Assemble the Team. See if we can find another thing to just lock out this game completely. They go for Sinister Sabotage. I'm totally happy to let that resolve. Basically, in this board state situation, they have one option, and that is to board wipe or kill one of our creatures. And with their restricted black mana, and in fact Veto can't be countered, we pretty much have a lock on this game. Right, then we'll just go to combat, see if they have anything that they're going to try and use on us. They're clearly targeting our stuff. They have Urza's rebuff, but as I said, we have a veto that can't be countered, so we'll see if that resolves. Well, that will resolve, but they have 2 mana open, so they could have another removal spell to try and stay alive, but nope. We got lucky there. I think that they definitely struggled with mana, kept a very greedy hand. And our final match, we are up against the Destra Shadowheart. I have been playing with the specialized cards in Historic for fun here, and I've got to say, I'm very impressed. There'll be a video coming later in a few days. But we are going to have to mulligan down to 7 here, keep this. We do not have red, which could be a bit of a problem, but Maelstrom Pulse is good. We can get Solvark the Overslime down. Would be way better if we could find some lands, like sacrifice lands. We'll resolve this World Tree and play down a flower. That'll let us get another land here. We're aiming for 6 to get our perfect fix with the World Tree. So this is a Shadowheart. So specialized, for those who don't know, oh, we see an Invasion of Obakan come down, so they're fort seizing us. Taking the Maelstrom Pulse, pretty sound thing. We find a Knight of Autumn here. I'm going to resolve Knight of Autumn and put counters on it here. Just get a creature on the board. Being Orzhov, they probably have a solid ton of removal, so I just want to bait out as much of it as possible. If not, I can just put some pressure on them. They play Lotho, the Corrupt Sheriff. We're still missing red or white mana here. So we're missing red mana, that's the one. So let's play this land tapped. We'll play Solgark the Overslime as a blocker. We want to keep the invasion off the board with some flipping for the protection it gives them. Play their land again. Shadowheart specialization, I believe, only triggers if an opponent or player has 13 or less life. So it's possible we're playing into their hands here by just letting them get tacked in. Wedding Announcement makes them a token. We got our 6 land here, ironically not a red. But what I could do here, and I do, I pay 2 life to get this Maelstrom Pulse out of my hand. I'm going to stop this Wedding Announcement before it becomes an Anthem or a problem to deal with. And we'll just swing in with a Knight of Autumn, see if they want to double block. Nope, they just chump. So they're clearly not racing down to 13 life for their Shadowheart. Having a little think about what they want to do here. It is a little awkward for them. As you see here, yes, only if the player has 13 or less life. Luminous Broodmoth. Ooh, this is interesting. There could be a sack loop involved. Justice Strike is kind of an awkward draw because it doesn't actually kill the Broodmoth here. So let's use Wandering Mind, see what we can find. Hey, there's our Anguished Unmaking coming in clutch again. We can pass here. I'm going to attack in with the Knight because they might just chump with Lotho. Yeah, because it'll come back as a flyer. Now, that's still not enough to flip the invasion because we can throw the Wandering Mind in front of the Broodmoth and let Lotho through here. I do consider using the Justice Strike, but then that would give him a treasure. And I'm going to hold back on giving them resources. Yep, here comes the Luminous Broodmoth going for the flip on the Wandering Mind, so we'll block. Sorry, flip on invasion. So they could die here to Justice Strike. I want to see if they cast something, see if maybe there's something else I'm not aware of. Having a think. Here comes the One Ring. So, Justice Strike. Let's take out this Luminous Broodmoth. So they have immunity for this turn, but thankfully we have an Anguished Unmaking to deal with the One Ring. There's another land, so let's use land here. I am tempted to use Niv-Mizzet here, but there's just too much to be gained from them drawing cards. So I'm considering my turn order here. We've got to stop Lotho from making a treasure, so let's 3 damage to Lotho, get him off the board. Then we can use our second spell to get rid of the one ring. They will get one card draw here, but we have to, well, we have to do something because otherwise this will just run away with it. You've seen in Historic what this thing can do if it goes unanswered. Maybe I need to put Anguish on making the sideboard for the ring matchup in Historic. That's definitely something to consider. Valia comes down, which means our creatures will come tapped. There's an Accede of the Life's Bounty. King of the Oathbreakers is our draw. Let's use Niv-Mizzet to see what we can find from this.
Reload!
Decisive Denial, Karvu, and Smeagol. Decisive Denial, I think we need to we'll answer this Valia while they don't have protection up because the Accede needs 1 mana to activate. Excellent. Then we can get in with our team. If they can instant speed flip the invasion and somehow it's not too impactful here, we could be playing into a board wipe, but I'm happy to risk that here. Here comes Shadowheart. Are they going? They can't specialize yet because there's still 1 above life total here. They attack the invasion. So she deals 1 damage to each of us here. And then she gains the ability. Alright, so this is perfect here. So, Ring Sight. I should have probably played Smeagol first, but actually what I'm looking for, I'm going to take the Culling Ritual, because this here is perfect. So I can use Culling Ritual. That'll not only get rid of their 2 creatures, but also their invasion of Gobakhan. Then we'll add enough mana to play Smeagol. They could stop us here from having the mana for Smeagol if they sack the Accede of Life's Bounty. However, they don't. So Niv goes back to the command zone here. We'll add black, green, green, and cast our favourite little Smeagol. We'll go in for combat here, so we have lethal on the attack if they don't have a board wipe, and then in the end step, Smeagol's gonna nab a land from the opponent, and Smeagol causes them to quit. Hope you enjoyed the games. There'll be more later.